You know, I'm thinking that intro needs a little Keith Moon drumming to spice it up.
I think there's a lot of songs that need more Keith Moon in it, right?
I couldn't agree with you anymore.
Yeah, with maybe some Pete Townsend and sitting in the back, turning around like, where are we at? What are we doing?
Yeah, Pete always was critical of his drumming for some reason, but it is kind of hard to keep time with it. But of course, enough of The Who. Of course, we're going to do Heart today and their hit song Magic Man. So try to understand.
Yeah, I will try very hard to understand. This group is so aptly named, I must say.
Yeah, but what's funny about it, this group was not formed by Ann and Nancy Wilson as we know them. And of course, you're joining Classic Vinyl Podcast. You've got Justin and Ty here as your hosts. This is the podcast where we listen to and review songs and albums from the classic vinyl era of the 60s and 70s.
That's right. Not quite going all the way back to classical music of the 16 and 1700s, but yeah, just classic rock of the 60s and 70s.
But you never know. We may throw a curveball in on every once in a while.
Yeah, a little bit of Mozart, Beethoven.
We're probably a ways away from that. But let me give you a little history on the band Heart. They're an American rock band formed in Seattle, Washington in 1973. Now, they were originally formed and founded by guitarist Roger Fisher and bassist Steve Fossen. As we know Heart nowadays with Ann and Nancy Wilson, they didn't join the group until 75, along with Michael DeRosier on drums and Howard Lisi on guitar and keyboards. They also joined the group. And that's how the group was until about 1982 when you had Fisher, Fossen, and DeRosier all left the group and they were replaced by Mark Andes and on bass and Danny Carmassi on drums. Now, Heart's generally considered a hard rock band for the most part, but they have definitely crossed over from hard rock to rock, folk, pop, especially in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
They were big into pop, and that was during the 80s where they had the big comeback. And I wouldn't even say the comeback because I think that's when they really had most of their success.
Yeah, just kind of their heyday, right?
They really did with songs with What About Love, Never, These Dreams Alone. They were very popular songs. They've sold almost 50 million albums worldwide. They've had 20 top 40 singles, 7 top 10 albums, along with 4 Grammy nominations. All in all, the group has released a total of 15 studio albums, 9 live albums, 9 compilation albums, and 64 singles. And as we were talking about the 80s, they also did release 35 MTV music videos as well. So in the U.S., as far as their albums are concerned, they had 9 of those albums in the top 20, with their top album being their self-titled 1985 album hitting number 1. Their 1980 Greatest Hits live album did hit number 13. Now in Canada, where they were pretty popular as well, they had 8 albums in the top 20. 1977's album The Little Queen hit number 2, and 1990 album Brigade hit number 2, and just 3 top 20 albums in the UK. So they weren't very popular with the albums in the UK, but the 1990 album Brigade also hit number 3 in the UK. Now, as far as singles are concerned, in the US, they had 13 of their singles in the top 20. These Dreams from 1986 and Alone from 1987 were both their top charting songs, both of those songs hitting number 1 in the US.
Rightly so. They're beautiful songs.
Yeah, they're good songs. Now, in Canada, where they had quite a bit of success with singles as well, they actually had more singles in the top 20. They had 14 of them in the top 20 with Alone, again, from 1987, and the song All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You from 1990. Both of those songs hit number 1.
That's a very straightforward title.
Well, and like we talked before, it's a very straightforward song. I mean, you know what it's about.
That's all it is. She just, all that she wants is another baby. She's gone tomorrow.
Exactly. Talking about the UK, where they didn't really have a lot of popularity, they did have some in the 80s where they had 6 top 10 singles from 1985 on. Alone from 1987 was their top charting single in the UK, hitting number 3. So they did not have any number 1 songs in the UK. So the band has charted singles and top 10 albums in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. Funny enough, that's a record for a female-fronted band. My thought to that is, who cares? I mean, who cares if they're a female-fronted band, because they're just a great band.
Oh, they sound amazing. They look amazing. This is a great band.
Yeah, I don't really... there's not a lot of female rock bands to choose from like there are male rock bands, but I don't look at it that way. I look at this as just a great band.
And I look at this as a band that helped me realize that I am straight.
That's a good that's
more
a good
so
way
than
to do
any
it.
other band.
But they're an amazing band. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame of 2013. You know what we think of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but it's deserved by this band without a doubt.
They certainly belong in there.
Yeah, they're an amazing female-fronted band, although that shouldn't need to be said, but they have influenced many female artists, so if there is a positive that is the one great side of it, to get as many people in music as possible. The band Heart is still touring to this day, although the only original members are the sisters, Ann and Nancy Wilson.
Really, they all changed out.
Yeah. So do you want to get to the song review?
Let's do it.
And now it's time for the song review.
Okay, so today we're doing Heart, Magic Man. So I know you've heard this song before, Tyler. We try and pick songs, they're fairly popular, but we try to pick songs you don't know as well. But this, we're kind of missing it on this one because you do know this song.
It's my wheelhouse, yeah.
Yeah. So you have quite a bit of history with this one.
I love the band Heart. I am a child of the 80s. I'm more of a fan of their 80s music. But Magic Man, Barracuda, these are some really good, they put out some really good songs.
Yeah, I definitely heard them first when I was younger in the 80s and fell in love with them over those songs. I certainly like their 70s music a little more. It's more guitar driven, not so poppy, but I do like their 80s songs too. They're good pop hits.
For sure.
Without a doubt. So let me give you a little history on Magic Man. So this was written by Ann and Nancy Wilson together. It was released on June 19th of 1976 as a single. The B-side of the single was a song called How Deep It Goes. Now, that might be the prequel to All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You. I'm really not sure, but we didn't listen to that song, and I know I've heard it before, but we probably should have. Heart at this point on Magic Man is made up of Ann Wilson on lead vocals, Nancy Wilson on guitars, backing vocals, Roger Fisher on guitars, Howard Lisi on guitar and synth, Steve Fossen on bass, Dave Wilson on drums, and Ray Ayotte and Mike Flicker on percussion.
Okay, so Dave Wilson on drums, is he, Ann and Nancy are Wilson sisters.
I don't think he's one of the sisters.
Is he a brother?
As far as I know, he is not, but I could be wrong on that. And send me an email if I'm wrong, someone.
Yeah, Wilson is a common enough last name. I wouldn't be surprised.
So Magic Man was their second single off their debut album, Dreamboat Annie, after Crazy on You. And Dreamboat Annie actually hit number 7 in the charts. And although it's not their top charting album, I think now as time has weathered, it's probably their most popular. I think it's what people talk about when they talk about Heart. Even though those albums in the 80s were so popular and sold so many, I think they get dismissed a little bit because of the poppiness and the era a little bit.
Barracuda?
Yeah.
I actually
That's
haven't.
not from the 80s.
Yeah, but I have not heard Dreamboat Annie. I'm surprised.
We'll listen to it.
Okay.
We're going to do that song soon. This song, Magic Man, reached number 9 in the US and number 26 in Canada. It did not chart in the UK. What's kind of interesting about this song is it was actually released a full year previous in Canada, which gave it a little traction for the Dreamboat Annie album release up there. So this was Heart's first top 10 hit in the US. The album version is 5.5 minutes long, while the single version is only 3.5 minutes. They cut out that 2-minute instrumental break in the middle, which I think is one of the best parts of the song.
I think that you lose something by cutting that out, but I suppose you can cut it out and it's still a good song. It's just that instrumental interlude is what makes it a great song.
And I'll be honest, I don't think the original 3.5 minute single is played that often any longer. I think the full song is played most places.
People want to hear that instrumental.
Yeah. Now the song, pretty easy to follow the lyrics, but it's from the viewpoint of a young girl who's being seduced by an older man, basically. He's the Magic Man, right?
Yeah.
Her mother is definitely not happy about this, and she's basically pleading with the girl to come back home and to leave this man, you know, but he's got the magic hands, mama.
Yeah.
Ann Wilson has said that Magic Man was Mike Fisher. That was Heart's original guitarist. He was Ann Wilson's boyfriend at the time when she wrote this, and she followed him to Canada during the Vietnam War years so he wouldn't get drafted. You know, he was trying to dodge the draft. And in 1974, Nancy Wilson, you know, who's Ann's sister, she joined the band and Fisher became their manager and sound engineer. The song's really about being madly in love to the point where you're not thinking clearly about anything, right? It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't have to. You're in love. he's the one you want to be with, who cares, right?
Yeah, this hasn't ever blown up in the face of some young doe-eyed girl, right?
No, never.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing about this song is even though this song was very successful and one of their most well-known songs from the 70s especially, they quit playing the song live for quite a few years. Basically, Anne thought it was outdated and it was more of a teenage girl love song type of thing. Maybe she was a little embarrassed about it. I don't know, but I guess Nancy eventually convinced her, let's start playing this. And it's pretty much been in all their live sets since the mid-90s. So it's good them playing this. I couldn't imagine going to a Heart show and this song being left out because it's certainly one of the bullet points of their career, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. There's a handful of Heart songs that are chart toppers or main iconic songs. This is definitely one of the handful.
I certainly agree. So after listening to Heart Magic Man with purpose of doing your best to critique it, even though neither of us know anything truly, what are your thoughts on this song?
Well, it helps that we weren't watching video because, those girls are beautiful. Beautiful women, especially 1970s Wilson sisters. They're easy on the eyes.
Well, and there's something very sexy about a woman playing a guitar too, as well as Nancy Wilson does. So
yeah,
for me, because if you listen to this podcast, I love guitar-driven music, and
she drives that guitar,
and she does, and that's why I say it doesn't matter to me that this is a female-fronted band. It's the fact that it's a great band that happens to have females fronting the band, which is great.
Yeah, and they're very talented. All of them in the band. Speaking of which, to start off my review here, the bass and the drums, something that I noticed, especially in early Heart music, is that the bass and the drums drive a steady beat. It's like the RPMs of an engine. You just hear it steadily going forward, right?
It's funny you say that because I've got written as one of my bullet points when listening to this is I love the steady beat and drive through this song. It just adds something to it. It's not a fast beat, but it's just steady and heavy.
I mean, in the song Barracuda, it's dun 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 dun. This one, it's steady, but it's dun 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 dun. It's so good. That keeps it fun, but this also makes it a little bit of a psychedelic rock song. And I like that it ties back to psychedelic rock that way. In a way that I also noted down here that some songs are audio LSD, and we've reviewed a couple of those. This song, I don't call it audio LSD. This is a song that I want to take some LSD and listen to it. I think it would be amplified by acid, but I don't feel like I'm on acid just listening to this song.
Do you need me to go get some?
Probably. Does that make sense? That
it does.
I mean, I don't come away from this feeling like I'm reeling, like, holy cow, what have I just been through? The way that I would with some other songs, like, White Rabbit is Grace Slick's White Rabbit comes to mind. Yeah. But this song, it's just like, there's so much intensity behind it and the rhythms behind it and the way that the instruments and the vocals meld together, especially the instrumentals during that interlude. I mean, it's something that you can tell would be super amplified if you're on acid. And I totally get a kick out of it. Yeah, a song is very much about a young girl taken with this older man who, he invites her to his house, but not for love, just for drugs. He wants to get high a while. She doesn't have to love him.
I bet he wants her to.
Yeah, that's going to happen. They do get high a while, and her mom wants her to come home, but Mama just doesn't understand. He's a magic man. He's got magic hands, and this guy is an older, wiser gentleman that's taken interest in her, and that's flattering. She feels so grown up and mature. And anybody that thinks, oh, this person makes me feel so mature, probably not actually mature enough to be in a relationship, and definitely shouldn't be with that person that makes them feel so much more mature. That's my own personal opinion. Off my soapbox. What are your feelings about Heart, Magic Man?
Like I said earlier, I think Heart is an amazing band. It really starts with the instruments, right? The great guitar lick to start this is great. I mean, it's kind of a crying guitar. It just sounds great to start it. Thick, heavy bass and drums throughout, like we talked about, the steady beat throughout the whole song. I really like the heavy bass and drums through the whole thing. Keep that steady beat, and you pretty much hear that through the verses and the pre-chorus. The little licks after the chorus on the guitar, great. It just sounds so good. I think this is mixed very, very well for 1975. Let's talk about Anne's vocals. She has got an amazing vocal. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't consider her the prettiest singer, but she's a great singer, but it just fits perfect.
I put her on par with maybe Amy Lee from Evanescence.
Something like that. I just think
Real strong vocal.
Yeah, she's just got a very strong vocal. I mean, there's the reason she rocked it out in the 70s and kind of did a little more poppy things during the 80s. And her vocal, I've heard it recently. I seen a concert clip or something. I don't know if it was on YouTube or what, but she's very strong vocal still. What I really probably enjoy about this song the most is the middle instrumental. I think it's perfect. The guitar, the drums, the bass in it, and that's where you hear some of the synthesizer. And I'm not a huge synthesizer fan. You know, the Who used it quite a bit in Who's Next and things, and I thought it was used perfect. And I think that's the case here. I think it's used perfectly in this. It's just, it wouldn't be the same without that synth in that middle section.
It adds some different depth, some perspective to the music that they've got in that instrumental break, right?
Yeah, but I like how it showcases everything, the bass and drums, and there's some good guitar licking going on there, and then it kicks over to the synth, and I like how they mix it together, because sometimes, you know, you'll see a guitar solo replaced with a synth or a piano or something, but I just like how they used them all together, and I think that synthesizer sound in this is probably one of the more well-known parts of this song, and this song is still played heavily to this day on all rock radio, and it's a great song. There isn't too many Heart songs that I get tired of hearing when they pop up. I don't skip them. I quite like them. I always have. I haven't dove as deep into their albums. I've listened to all their albums at one point or another, but I don't really visit them that often, and it's probably something I should do more often, because they're a very powerful band.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, do you want to get the song rating?
I really do.
Song rating.
Okay, if this is your first episode, I'll explain our rating system pretty simple. It's 0 to 10, 10 being the best. This one, I am putting it as a really solid 8. This one, like I said, it's not, I love Heart. I'm more partial to their 80s songs. I do like this song. It's a piece of artwork that I just am taken with and enthralled with, especially after reviewing it, breaking it apart and piecing it back together. It's a beautiful masterpiece of art. And for them to be so young and new at this at the time, maybe that's why they stopped playing it for so long, because it was a little bit too much of a window into Ann Wilson's soul, being with Mike Fisher. She's just like, oh, it's cringy how much I opened myself up to letting people see that. But no, this is excellent music. I'm glad that they started playing it again live. Where do you put this one, Justin?
We're right on par with each other on this, and I rate this in an 8 as well. I think it's a great song. It's not my favorite Heart song, but it's up there. And I'm sure we'll get to my favorite Heart song one of these episodes. But
yeah. Well, when I start doing drugs, this is going to be one of my go-tos.
Okay, I'll go get the acid.
Okay.
Well, that is Heart and Magic Man. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or have a song or an album you'd like us to rate, please send it to us at classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. And once again, like I always say, we certainly appreciate you taking your time to listen to us. It is appreciated more than you know it. And until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya. Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.